Welcome, welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. And I have an echo in my earpiece. I'm hearing myself all over again. Hopefully that will not distract me, and I will be able to get through this because we have a very, very important show today. It's going to be powerful. I'll probably be a bit emotional. I'm going to trigger some of you all, but we got to get through this today and this discussion that we're going to have today. Happy Thursday. We have an awesome show planned for you. We're going to go a million feet deep on this Austin Metcalf tragedy. If you don't know the name Austin Metcalf, if you're just waking up or just this the first news you're hearing, yesterday, a 17-year-old honor roll student, hardcore Christian, football prospect was stabbed in the heart by another 17-year-old at a track meet in Frisco, Texas. Austin Metcalf died on the scenes in the arms of his twin brother, and the killer was immediately arrested. There was a lot of witnesses, a lot of security there. 17-year-old kid, track meet. It's a tragedy. Austin Metcalf, white, the killer named Carmelo Anthony. Yes, Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo spelled with a K, 17-year-old high school kid himself. Black. There's a lot to unpack and discuss here, and we're going to do it. I'm going to start off really big picture, and then I'm going to start narrowing down and focusing down because we have to discuss this. This is all connected to what I discussed yesterday about the documentary Adolescence that we talked about yesterday, where they're pointing to a crisis that young kids are being radicalized by the manosphere and the red pill movement and Andrew Tate. And I was telling you yesterday, like, hey, they're talking about the wrong crisis. There's a legitimate, real crisis going on with young people that I will discuss today in great detail. So buckle up. Virgil Walker is on deck whenever I get done explaining this. We'll bring Virgil in and have him expound on some of the things I point out. And then we're going to end the show talking a little bit of sports. We're going to bring on Skap Attack, talk a little bit about Nikola Jokic and what's going on with him in the NBA. And guys are starting to point out he may be the most skilled player in the NBA. And we'll talk a little bit about Russell Westbrook's meltdown in Denver, the game he cost them, and just Russell, did I say Wilson? Westbrook. Russell Westbrook. And Westbrook, after costing the Nuggets that game against the Timberwolves, then went after a fan. So we'll talk about all that. But I'm going to spend the majority of this show. It's probably going to take me 60, 90 minutes to get through what I have to say about this Austin Metcalf tragedy. Tell your friends. This is, I believe, potentially the most important show we've done here. And it's going to be explosive and provocative, but it's going to be what you need to hear. And hopefully we'll get my earpiece fixed. Oh, my earpiece is fixed right now. There we go. Look, God is good. I'm no longer hearing the echo. Thank you, Jesus. All right, before I go off into this fire starter, I want to talk to you about our great friends at Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that helps your body fight pain by fighting inflammation, which is the source of most of the pain in our bodies and a lot of diseases. It's 100% drug-free, developed by doctors to help reduce or eliminate pain. Trying it couldn't be easier. $20. 3-week quick start, $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. $20, and you have a chance at relieving some of your pain. Just call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800, the number 4-RELIEF. All right. Let me get into this Austin Metcalf story. And let me just start here by saying that there is a crisis among youth and young men. Nope, I'm gonna let you know when I want that. Move it back off screen. Thank you. There's a crisis among young men. And there's a particular acute crisis among young black men. And we don't like to talk about the crisis among young black men and boys. We don't like to talk about the crisis among black people. Because you get accused of being a racist, you get accused of being an Uncle Tom, you get accused of selling out. And they do the, what about Brett Favre, or what about this example? What about Dylan Roof? What about this? What about that? And so, hey, let's ignore the crisis going on with black people. Let's ignore the crisis going on with young black men because, hey, white people got problems too. And so that is the equivalent of, hey, Jason, don't address your weight problem. There are fat white people. So, I got a weight problem. I need to address it. I'm not comforted by the fact that there are overweight white people. I'm not comforted by the fact that Lizzo's overweight. I have a problem that needs to be addressed. And black people, we have a problem that needs to be addressed. And the problem is disculture. I want the over-the-shoulder disculture. That's where we're going to begin. So what is disculture? I've got the picture up of Kendrick Lamar and Drake. They've been beefing back and forth, and they've been dissing each other, and they've put out some of the best diss tracks in history. And disculture is really about disrespect. And this culture that has been imposed on us through hip hop. Nobody can disrespect me. And if someone disrespects me, I must react. I must get in their face. I must disrespect them. And if necessary, I must turn violent. This disculture is the problem. And it's not being addressed. And this disculture is just another word for what has been defined in the mainstream, in legacy media, in the music industry, in the Hollywood industry, in the movie, music, in the culture. Black culture is disculture. I will not allow anyone to disrespect me. And I get to determine what is disrespect. Not the person you're engaged with. They may not think they're disrespecting you. But if you think that they are, you now must disrespect them in an aggressive manner and, if necessary, turn violent. Disculture. This demonic culture. This secular culture that no one wants to talk about in a real way. As I pointed out yesterday, they do a 4-part miniseries on Netflix called Adolescence, where they're trying to explain to using some 13-year-old white character that killed a young woman, and they're pointing out, look, oh boy, there's a culture here in the manosphere, in the red pill space, led by Andrew Tate, that is radicalizing young white boys and making them violent towards young women and just making them angry and blah. And we must stop it. And maybe there's a tiny kernel of truth in what they're talking about. But that's not the culture that has an acute problem, an out of control problem that we all know must be addressed. Young black men, young black girls, older black people are suffering from this culture. And they're emotional and they're out of control, and they think they're justified in being disrespectful, rude, and occasionally violent when they feel they've been disrespected. And that's what took the life of Austin Metcalf. Carmelo Anthony, Carmelo with a K, the 17-year-old in Frisco, Texas, reached the conclusion, apparently, that he had been disrespected while sitting in the stands at a track meet. And he responded by stabbing Austin Metcalf, I believe, a 4.0 student. I think I was told he's a 3.97, but let's call it a 4.0 student. A member of his church, an active member of his church, a devout Christian, a rising senior who is a Division I football prospect, 6'1", 220 pounds, Christian, great student, parents heavily invested in his life, has a twin brother, their BFF. His brother is sitting right in front of him as Carmelo Anthony stabs him in the heart, and his brother holds his brother, his twin, and Austin Metcalf dies in the arms of his twin brother. We got a problem. This isn't a one-off, because the same thing that happened to Austin Metcalf is happening to young black men all across this country. They're dying because of this culture. They're being shot and stabbed and beat up and brutalized by other young black men who subscribe to this culture, the hip hop culture that defines everything in the starkest terms, in the most nihilistic terms, in terms that, like, oh my God, you can't be disrespected. And if you do, turn violent. And this prison culture that's celebrated. And no one wants to speak out about it because of idolatry. Black ministers won't touch it because of idolatry. We all want to stay in the good graces of Snoop Dogg and Jay-Z and Kendrick Lamar. We don't want the heat of, like, oh, how dare you criticize Jay-Z and these other demonic figures who promote this culture. We've sat and watched our young boys be radicalized by this culture. They're rotting away in prisons. We're burying them at a record pace, but no one wants to talk about it, because what you want to talk about is white racism. And oh, what the white man has done to us. And when someone like me asks the question and says, hold up now, what has he done? Well, don't take me back 150 years. Don't take me back 100 years. Talk to me about today. What has he done? Have you been hoodwinked and fooled into believing that the white evangelical man is your enemy and the source of all your problems? Are you ignoring the fact that your refusal to submit to Jesus Christ in a biblical worldview is actually the source of your problems. And that you put these racial idolatry glasses on and you interpret the entire world through this racial lens, this skin color lens. And you and your children have been trained and programmed by the music, by the movies, by the TV shows, by all the propaganda that says your problem is the white man. You should hate the white man. What the white man thinks about you is the most important thing on the planet. If the white man or white woman says anything to you that you interpret as some sort of disrespect, if you're Roland Martin and someone sees you wearing a Texas A&M paraphernalia, t-shirt, hats, shorts, and they say, hey, are you a fan or are you on some sports team? Are you on the football team? You should interpret that as disrespect and another example that the white man is out to get you and you should be angry about it. And then we wonder why these young kids can't control their emotions and are easily triggered by any and everything. I want to play the clip of Austin Metcalf's twin brother, who, let me make sure, Hunter, SOT number 2. I want to play the clip. This is yesterday. His brother talking about his brother that just got murdered hours ago. This is Hunter Metcalf explaining what happened to his brother. Play the clip.
There was this kid, before I knew his name now, this kid was sitting under our tent at track. We asked him to move. He started getting aggressive and talking reckless. And my brother stepped in and said, you need to move. He's like, make me move. Austin grabbed his backpack. The kid, I tried to whip around as fast as I could, but I didn't see the stab. But then I look at my brother, and then I'm not going to talk about the rest. So that's just what I saw. And I tried to help him, but
it was just senseless.
It was really senseless. Really, I don't know why a person would do that to someone just over that little argument. It's just crazy in this world nowadays how people just up and do that. Like that man has a family. That man has people that care about them all the time, and he did everything for our family too. He was a strong man. He was a strong kid.
You're sitting in the stands at a track meet. You're sitting in the stands at a track meet, and there's pictures of this stadium. It's a pretty big high school stadium. This is, Texas. They take high school sports very seriously. And one school has a little tent over the area they're sitting in. It's probably hot in Texas. They put the tent so that athletes and kids could sit in the shade. It's probably some sort of competitive advantage for that school. They're competing in an all-day track meet. They want to keep their kids hydrated. They don't want the sun eating them up, and so they put up a little tent. And the other kids see a kid not from their high school sitting in their tent, underneath their tent, and it sounds like someone said, hey, bro, this is our tent. You're not a part of this school, blah, blah, blah. According to the brother, Carmelo Anthony starts talking spicy and starts talking reckless. And so another 16, 17-year-old kid, and keep it, Carmelo Anthony's a former high school football player. I think his senior season was cut short by an injury. But, these are two high school athletes, testosterone filled up. And so Austin said, hey, man, we done asked you to move, and this guy's talking spicy. And said, well, make me move. And Austin picks up his backpack and probably tries to move it. And this provokes the kid into a violent response, stabs him in the heart. So I want to walk you through Frisco, Texas, just a little bit. It's not a long distance, but Frisco, Texas is kind of like, wants to be seen as the Napa Valley of Texas. It's kind of wine country. It's a very affluent area. It's where people move to escape poverty and to live amongst family and in a family culture. It's where rich folks in Texas like to live and move. Both of these kids seem to come from, rich is a strong word, but both of these kids seem to come from good families based on the information I've been able to dig up. I've got friends in Frisco, Texas. I got friends in the school district. That's why I was on this story early yesterday. But anyway, in conversations with them, both of these kids came from supportive families. One white, one black. But not both of these kids are defined, nope, I'll let you know. Not both of these kids are defined by black culture. Not both of them, only one of them has to adhere to black culture. And what have we defined black culture as? Super aggressive, irresponsibly masculine, loves weed, radical materialism, easy to provoke into violence, tolerates no so-called alleged disrespect. That's what black culture. And so when you hear all these people, we're doing it for the culture. This is what they're talking about. They've accepted the Hollywood music industry definition, pop culture definition of black culture. They've accepted that, and they try to live up to it. I looked at pictures and I didn't give these to you guys, but I've seen pictures of this Carmelo Anthony posed up with a AK-47 or some kind of AR-15, giving people the finger. And I don't think this Carmelo Anthony, based off the pictures I've seen, got a lot of white friends. He's out there in the Frisco area with everybody else. He's got a lot of white friends. He's not someone who's sitting around, oh, I'm racist, I hate white people. But yes, he does. He's been programmed and radicalized in a way that he doesn't understand. And we adults have allowed it. My generation, we co-signed all of this buffoonery, debauchery, and demonic energy in a form of music that we have celebrated and called our culture. Could you imagine what the level of insanity you have to have? And I used to be this insane, where I thought this hip hop, this profane, violent, ignorant music was a reflection of black culture. And I was proud of it and embraced it. This is insanity. This is a mass psychosis that is killing and ruining and destroying our kids, and it's spilling out and harming other kids. And so I tend to believe this Hunter Metcalf. Why would he lie? Why? You know, and it'll be, the defense will have some sort of argument for trying to justify what Carmelo Anthony did here. But unless I hear that, hey, Austin Metcalf pulled out a knife, pulled out a gun, did something crazy, this isn't justified. This isn't remotely defensible. Someone saying, hey, man, you're sitting in the wrong spot. This is our tent. And you talk spicy, and he says, and you say, make me move, and he grabs your backpack. That doesn't justify stabbing them in the heart. Only someone, and I saw videos, and I didn't send this to you guys either, but I've looked at Carmelo Anthony's IG account, where he's playing hip-hop music and posing, and hip-hop music that typical, stereotypical hip-hop music. He wants to live up to this culture. Because if you don't embrace it, oh, you ain't black, you a sellout. This is what we're doing to our kids, and no one's objecting, not in a real way. We spend all of our time on the internet and every place else looking for examples of white racism rather than looking for a cure to the black radicalization and insanity that young people have embraced and older people have co-signed. You got Steven Jackson and everybody else they let on TV co-signing this culture, promoting this culture. All of them kissing Jay-Z's butt and every gangster and gangbanger in the world. And Netflix puts out a mini-series. Yeah, it's Andrew Tate's fault. It's the manosphere. They did it. Are you kidding me? This young man's, both of these young men, now we can move on. Both of these young men, their adolescence has been stolen. Austin Metcalf is dead, and Carmelo Anthony's headed towards a long prison stretch. Both of these young men have had their adolescence stolen by a culture that we believers and alleged believers refuse to significantly and really object to. A culture that is preached in the music, that's preached in movies, that's preached in television shows, that the white man is the most evil person on the planet, and every black person should run around looking for examples of the wickedness of the evangelical white man, and you must stamp it out. You must get in the face of white people and tell them, I will not tolerate your disrespect. And if they in any way defend themselves, go ahead and get violent with them. Beat them down, kill them. This is a crisis that those of us that call Jesus Christ our Lord and Savior, we have to object to. And it doesn't matter what color you are. You must object. You must object to the culture, and you must object to the demonization of white people. It's killing your kids. You think, oh, I'm just harming white people by being racist. I'm just harming white people. I'm just giving them a taste of their own medicine. No, you're radicalizing your kids. You're instilling in them an emotion that's easily triggered and easily spins out of control. And now Austin Metcalf's family and Carmelo Anthony's family have to deal with the fact that this culture took both of their lives. I got layers and layers to go, but I want to make sure, because I don't know, I could go forever. Let me take care of a tiny bit of business and tell you about a studio and a movie production company that actually puts out good stuff. Angel Studios, the studio behind The Sound of Freedom. Now they've come with The King of Kings. A father tells his son the greatest story ever told, and what begins as a bedtime tale becomes a life-changing journey. Through vivid imagination, the boy walks alongside Jesus, witnessing his miracles, facing his trials, and understanding his ultimate sacrifice. The King of Kings invites us to rediscover the enduring power of hope, love, and redemption through the eyes of a child. This film has a high-profile cast of voices to include Oscar Isaac, Pierce Brosnan, Mark Hamill, Kenneth Branagh, Ben Kingsley, Uma Thurman, and Forrest Whitaker, just to name a few. There is also a beautiful animation, and it's the perfect film to enjoy with your family this Easter. I encourage you to see The King of Kings in theaters on Friday, April 11th. Get your tickets today at angel.com/Jason. That's angel.com/Jason. I want to play you Austin Metcalf's dad and his response yesterday. Now, his son is killed Wednesday morning. Here's his response via interview yesterday, hours after his son is murdered in front of his other son. Here's Austin Metcalf's, no, I'm sorry, I think his name is Drew Metcalf, his dad, Drew Metcalf. Here's a portion of his interview.
I'm not trying to judge, but what kind of parents did this child have? What was he taught? He brought a knife to a track meet, and he murdered my son by stabbing him in the heart. The guy was in the wrong place. They asked him to move, and he bowed up. This is murder. I don't know. I know they have someone in custody.
Yeah, we do.
And you know what? I already forgive this person.
Already?
Already. God takes care of things. God's going to take care of me. God's going to take care of my family.
The man loses his son, and he lets a few sparks fly, lets off some steam. Hey, what kind of family does this kid come from? It's a natural response. Don't blame Drew Metcalf for having that response. Best I can tell, Carmelo Anthony's parents, pretty supportive, really involved in their child's life. I'm sure moved out to the Frisco area trying to put their son in the best environment. But Carmelo Anthony's parents exist in a world where their kids exist in this black culture bubble and have to adhere to this black culture bubble and mentality and culture that's enforced and imposed on them. I don't want to call his parents victims, but they are. They have to raise their child, and maybe they participate in this black culture. Maybe Carmelo Anthony's parents, they like most black people, maybe they love this hip hop culture and promote it. Maybe they love Black Lives Matter. Maybe they promote the mentality that black people are entitled to things, black people are perpetual victims, and that the white man is the source of all their evil. Maybe, I don't know. But from what I could tell, they seem pretty supportive and involved in their son's life, and to the point of like, were they pampering and spoiling this kid too much? I saw pictures of like, it looked like they gave him a Lexus on his 16th birthday. And then the next year he's got a Jeep truck. And I'm not blaming them. They're dealing with a lot. And I don't know them. I just know they were supportive and they were trying to give their son all the things that they thought were necessary to make him happy and well-rounded. And the argument that I'm making today, you can't buy your kids out of trouble. You can't give them fancy cars and keep them out of trouble. You must make your children surrender to Jesus Christ and a biblical worldview. That's your only hope. Because if they surrender to a biblical worldview, they will reject black diss culture. They will reject hip hop culture. They will hear it, see it, and understand it for what it is. It's a death culture. that will lead your child to imprisonment or an early grave. So I understand why Drew Metcalf said that, and out of frustration, I get why he's like, man, what are his parents about? Who would raise a child that would bring a knife to a track meet in Frisco, Texas? Think it through. Hey, I'm going to Frisco, Texas for a track meet. I better carry a knife. Why? Because, again, he's a part of a culture that thinks you need to be armed and ready for violence at any and all times. He's not coming in peace because black culture tells you you don't come in peace. Someone steps on your shoes, someone disrespects you, you meet that with force. Look, I'm not making excuses. I'm telling you what's going on with young people as a whole, because there's a nihilistic mentality across America, globally. But as it relates to black kids and this black culture that's been defined for us, this problem is really, really acute. And we have to muster the courage to reject it. And it really doesn't take courage. It takes fear of God to reject it. If you're serious about your faith walk, if you're serious about raising and properly developing young people, whether you are black or white, you have to stand your ground and call this BS for what it is. When they put Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Kendrick Lamar as your Super Bowl halftime entertainment, you have to be willing to say, Roger Goodell, NFL ownership, what in the hell are you doing? Why are you mainstreaming this death culture? This ESPN's not going to talk about this. Jerry Jones, Dallas Cowboys aren't going to talk about where this young man was killed. It's about 3 miles from Cowboy Stadium. Frisco, Texas, very close to Cowboy Stadium. This young man, Austin Metcalf, a legitimate football prospect, headed into his senior year next year. He's 6'1", 220 pounds, MVP of his team, all conference, a serious high school football player. Just 3 miles from the Cowboy Stadium. Will anybody in the sports media world talk about this? Will any of the Cowboys treat Austin Metcalf the way the Cowboys treated George Floyd, taking a knee all over the place? What's more of a tragedy? George Floyd overdosing on fentanyl under the knee of Derek Chauvin, or this 17-year-old boy, honor roll student, devout Christian, stabbed in the heart at a track meet? But no one's outraged. No, that's a misnomer. People are outraged. But these idolatrous, or these idols that have been installed in our culture, let's see if they have a word to say about this. I don't think they will. Because we've seen this before. Do you remember the shows I was doing a year and a half ago about the kid Ethan Liming? The 17-year-old, I believe, high school football player in Akron, Ohio, who got beaten up and killed in the parking lot of LeBron James I Promise school. Everybody goes deathly silent when the white kid with the promising future gets killed by young black men. The boys that killed Ethan Lyman, they got 18 months in prison. They were found not guilty of involuntary manslaughter. A dispute over someone shooting water pellets at these two young black boys turns into the death of Ethan Lyman. Ethan Lyman, I'm testing my memory, but we did shows on this. Ethan Lyman was in the car where the other kids were shooting out the pellets. He jumped out of the car, and one of the young black boys, I think there were two brothers, one of them's last name, their last names were Stafford, and they cold cock him, his head hits the pavement, the kid dies over water pellets. And somehow they put together some defense that they got found not guilty of involuntary manslaughter, got convicted of assault, and did 18 months in prison. Ethan Lyman dead. LeBron James never uttered a word. This happened in the parking lot at his I Promise school. This never gets addressed. This gets ignored and swept under the rug. And none of the idols that have all this compassion and they care about young people, they're all slaves to black culture, which is demonic and nihilistic. It's evil. It's violent. It destroys young people, anyone in its path. Won't touch it. And they're hoping, they're probably planning on sweeping the death of Austin Metcalf under the same rug that Ethan Lyman's death got swept under. I want to play, this is crazy. What a coincidence. Austin Metcalf gets murdered on April 2nd, 2025. On April 2nd, 2025, the Akron Beacon-Journal did a story on the two young men that killed Ethan Lyman. This is all yesterday. Because A&E is doing a documentary, Accused, Did I Do It?, that's featuring the killers of Ethan Lyman. So once again, just like the miniseries Adolescence on Netflix, we got a documentary coming from A&E from the perspective of the kids that killed Ethan Lyman. And I want to play you, this is a long clip, but this is what the Akron Beacon-Journal had on its website, an interview they did with one of the Stafford, I think both of them were sitting there, but one of the Stafford boys and the defense attorney. And then at the end, I think it's the prosecutor. But this 3 minutes is worth listening to and trying to evaluate and trying to understand, because this young man that you'll hear talking was involved with killing Ethan Lyman, and I can't believe the way that he's talking. It blows my mind, the lack of remorse, the lack of humility. He talks about himself as if he's the victim. These young people have been radicalized. There's nothing they can do to white people that they have to show any remorse from. Ethan Lyman deserved it, I guess, because of slavery. This insanity cannot continue unabated. Let's play the clip.
Sometimes you got to step back and wait for the facts to come in and let the system work. And in this case, a year and a jury, but the system works.
So I had to be mindful, like I could be doing a long time compared to 18 months. So I accepted it. I ain't have no other choice. And more than grateful. Got me off track from where I was and still dealing with a lot of things that I thought I wouldn't be after the case over with. But it definitely messed me up. Trying to find a job, but it's been hard because I got a felony, so I got to explain my case. And for like once they read the case, they don't get back to me or call me. So it's just going to the park. I mean, I really don't regret like fighting him or like knocking him out. I definitely ain't want him to die. That was not the initial intent. It was just to make him stop shooting us, and that's it. Like just leave. It wasn't to kill him, hurt him, harm him. It was just to defend me and my brother. Facts out there and let everybody know like we did suffer from this. Like it wasn't just all good. We had our ups and downs, and even though we won the case, like man, we still lost, still going through a lot. And hopefully maybe we can still get, some support.
When you look at this case, I guess the overall thought would be it doesn't make sense. So when we look and we have to argue a case to a jury, again, people want things to make sense. So whether it be from the prosecution side or the defense, either attorneys, whether the victim's family or the defendant's family, nothing at all made sense. So that makes it that much more difficult to present to a jury. So this, again, is a case that just tells you go home and give your kids a hug.
Just sometimes you got to be humble. The whole world might seem like it's against you, but as long as you keep fighting and you do right, you can get through it and be whoever you want to be.
That young man just said, I got no regrets about fighting. Yeah, I didn't want him to die, but I got no regrets about fighting. And what he left out is like, I have no regrets about killing a guy. He was involved with a group of guys that shot me and my brother with water pellets. The young man felt disrespected, kids prank, and I'm sure when he threw the punch, he wasn't thinking I'm gonna kill the guy. He's just like, hey, I've got a right. I've been disrespected. I can turn violent. And I can direct my violence because I believe, and I'm testing my memory, but Ethan Lyman was with at least one other black kid when this happened, and a black kid was involved, I'm pretty sure, with firing the jail water pellets. But, killing the white kid, I got no regrets, not really. I wish he hadn't died, but, I was defending my brother. We were getting hit with water. This is a mentality that's being taught, promoted, affirmed, endorsed, that white people deserve no mercy. And their history is so evil that anything we do to them in retribution is justified. And look at how this young man, after killing a teenager, he suffered. He had to spend 18 months locked up. This is insanity. This anti-white bigotry It's killing your kids. And I'm talking about black kids. It's killing you. It's a poison, a toxin. Your kids have so little emotional control because that's what goes along with entitlement. Entitlement creates anger and animus. You feel like you're owed something. You feel like you're above rules and common respect because, oh, what happened so bad in the past, anything that I do today is justified. That is not the message of Christianity. And so take Austin Metcalf's dad, who on the day that his son was murdered, immediately goes down the path. He's starting a long journey. He's trying to speak it into existence. Forgiveness and mercy. Trust me, he doesn't probably fully feel that way today. But he knows as a believer, the only way he and his family and his other son survive this is if they go down the path of mercy and grace. If you go the other path, you're going to destroy yourself and all that come in contact with you. I'm telling you that because that's our only path for survival. I'm talking to black people. You have to grant mercy and forgiveness, and this should be real easy. If that man can go down that path day one that his son is killed, you can go down that path over what happened 160 years ago, over what happened 100 years ago, over what happened 50 years ago. That didn't happen to you. You running around mad. Emmett Till got murdered. I'm mad about it. In 1955, you wasn't even alive. Oh, the Tulsa Massacre. That was in the 1920s. You weren't even alive. Oh, someone did a microaggression towards me. So what? It did no harm. You're sentencing your kids to death with the mentality that you're promoting and affirming, and your toleration of this black disculture, letting blackness be defined as hip hop, letting blackness be defined as degeneracy, buffoonery, unchecked violence, gang culture. Every time you let your kid out the house with his pants hanging off his rear end, you're affirming prison culture. Every time you let your kid tat himself up like a gang member, you're affirming prison culture. It's blowing up in all of our faces. It's destroying our communities. We don't want to be around each other. Every time we get any money, how can we move away from black people? First thought in our head. I'm going to go deeper on that. But I want to take care of a tiny bit of business here. You guys have heard me talking about my friendship with Jeffrey Steele, the legendary singer-songwriter here in Nashville. And you've heard me mention that Jeffrey's out to my house. We're taping something in my studio. Jeffrey whips out his little baggie of Relief Factor, and I'm like, hey, man, is that mine? Where'd you get that? And he's like, no, man, I've been taking this for a long time. It helps me with my training. Jeffrey's in his early 60s. He bikes 30 miles a day. And I'm like, oh, man, so you on the Relief Factor too? So am I. And he's like, yeah, one of my best friends had knee surgery, and the only thing that provided him relief was Relief Factor. Guys, you don't have to compromise the second half of your life. You don't have to give in to the pain and aches that come along with aging and, inflammation and all that. Relief Factor, for just $20, you can try Relief Factor, $19.95 for the quick 3-week quick start, and find out if Relief Factor can work for you and relieve some of that inflammation and the aches and pains. Relief Factor is awesome. I use it. Jeffrey uses it. Jeffrey's friend that had the knee surgery uses it. You should try it. It's just $20 for the quick start. You got $20 to take a chance on relieving the pain in your life that's compromising and stopping you from doing the things you used to take for granted. Visit relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800, the number 4, relief. So I'm not the only person. Well, no. I want to cite just one more example. And I know this stuff is popular on the internet, but I just want to make sure we all understand the cost of this victim mentality, this disrespect culture, this entitlement culture, this fill your kids up with the belief that they're a victim and that America is against them. Don't offer America or your next door neighbor or any random white person any grace or mercy. No, get in their face, do something aggressive towards them. Let them know you've been disrespected. And you think like, yeah, this is fine. Just affects white people. And you know what? They deserve it. This is what black people dealt with in the 1940s and 50s. Why shouldn't white people have to go through it? And you know what? The white people that were filled with racial animus, they were wild and out of control too. And that's why they killed Emmett Till. And so if you think there's no consequence, no penalty for you embracing anti-white racism and affirming it and justifying it and looking the other way, oh, there's no penalty for me when I do it. Yes, there is. Your children become uncontrollable because they look at you and look at the mentality and the worldview that you gave them, and they have no control over their own emotions, and it spills out. You're sitting, Austin Metcalf is just a drop in the bucket to what goes on in black communities anytime we sense any disrespect amongst each other. We shoot and kill each other at the drop of a hat. And it's because we have the wrong mentality. We're not offering anybody grace and mercy, not even ourselves. And so I just want to play one more example of this victimhood mentality, that no matter what I do, I can justify because I'm a victim. Remember a week ago or 2 weeks ago, the video went viral of the young black girl at the high school track meet that's getting beat in a relay race, and she rises up and clubs the other girl in the head, cracks her skull, gives her a concussion. And then the girl that did the clubbing did a press conference with her family and friends surrounding her. And you know what? She's the real victim. She lost control of her emotions and whacked another girl over the head. What you just saw here on that track tape with the little girl, this is what goes on in black communities, black neighborhoods across America. Get frustrated, you're losing, Hey, just lose control and club someone over the head or pull out your gun and shoot them or get in a fight and stab them or beat them up. And then hold a press conference where you cry and claim victimhood. Let's play Sot 11.
I'm just a person by myself. Nobody's going to believe me because I can admit from the video it does look purposeful, but I know my intentions and I would never hit somebody on purpose.
Yes, you would. We just watched you do it on film. You don't have any control of your emotions. And your parents, rather than putting you on a platform to make yourself the victim so you can shed tears, should have put you on detention and been inside that house and said, baby girl, you owe that girl an apology and everybody on their team an apology. And until I'm done being mad at you for your lack of self-control, we don't want to hear a word from you. Not a word, not a word of, I don't even, but that's not what we do. We can justify any and everything because we've placed ourselves on a platform that we are God. We are the chosen people. We're above sin. I would never do that. I'm above sin. Don't you know how perfect I am? Nothing I do matters. So, the radicalization of black people has to be addressed. The mentality that we're always a victim or that we're a victim at all has to be addressed. The culture that trains black people to think being high, wearing your pants hanging off your rear end, tatting yourself up like a criminal, and meeting anything you define as disrespect with force, violence, and aggressiveness has to be addressed. We have to reject this culture, every aspect of it. And then white folks, because trust me, this is a problem for you as well. It's not as acute, but this is what they're planning for you. We're just the lab rats of it. But those of you white folks out there that want to be a part of the solution for all of us, you have to stand your ground and quit being a simp, a cuck, a coward. Quit apologizing for being Christian. Quit apologizing for being white. Quit apologizing for standing for your values. Cut it all out. And I'm about to play you a clip from Nick Fuentes. What he's saying is not the answer. Don't give in to this. Don't give in to simplistic bigotry. You, white folks, and I get the feeling that like, hey, look, we're being targeted, we're being diminished, demonized, and destroyed. I get it. I understand that reaction. But you have to go to a deeper level of understanding. This is an attack on Christianity. This is an attack on Jesus Christ. This is an attack on a biblical worldview. They have defined Christianity as the white man's religion so that they can get black people to hate Christianity. But trust me, the attack is on Jesus Christ. The attack is on a biblical worldview. The attack is on the grace and mercy that we were provided, that we are obligated to provide. And so they have radicalized black people. There's no question about it. And people out there, man, what do you mean? I would never do that. been a good husband and father, and I've raised my kids the right way, and, you know, my kids wouldn't do that. Yes, they will. Any kid, if radicalized, if buying into a victim mentality, a mentality of entitlement, and mentality of don't you tolerate no disrespect, is capable of being triggered and turning violent. And so all of us that have affirmed, celebrated, embraced, promoted the whole hip-hop black culture thing, we're all guilty. And that's whether you're black or white. And that's why I'm saying, call it out. Stand your ground. The damn Super Bowl, what, 90% of the audience in the Super Bowl stadium is white folks. Probably 70% of the people watching on TV, white folks, and they're running out Kendrick Lamar to do the halftime show. That ain't about you. That's about the NFL and Roger Goodell promoting a demonic, nihilistic worldview. Object to it. And if someone wants to call you racist and you don't understand, tell them to kiss your grits. What you should not do is what Nick Fuentes did last night. And I'm going to criticize him, but I'm going to also explain him. I'm going to explain where he's coming from, because he's not alone in feeling this way. But let's play the SOT number 4. Here's Nick Fuentes reacting to Austin Metcalf's murder.
And I will tell you this as plainly as possible. I don't want to live around black people. I just don't. It would be irresponsible if I had a wife and kids to live near black people. It just would be. And that's not to say that every black person is violent. It's not to say that every black person is the same way. But we watch the news. We read the papers. When you drive downtown in Chicago, you know who you got to look out for and worry about when you're thinking about whether you're going to get carjacked, when you're worried about catching a stray bullet, when you're worried about who's going to pull up on the side of the road and literally shove a rifle in your face and steal your iPhone or shoot you point blank, execution style, in Lincoln Park. We know who's doing it. I don't want to live near them. I don't want to be near them. They make me nervous. Unfortunately, we just don't know. When you're on the subway, when you're driving in your car, when you're in the city streets, you don't know whether the black person in proximity to you is one of the good ones or one of the ones who is going to summon an unbelievable, I mean, literally, for people like us, an unthinkable level of spontaneous brutality, senseless and merciless violence in an instant. We don't know. There's ambiguity. You're sitting on a subway. You look across. You see someone acting strange or aggressive. Is this someone who is going to pull out a knife and in 2 seconds slit my throat and kill me? Or is this just someone who's having a bad day? We don't know. I'm not willing to risk my life to find out. It's not worth it to me. I'm not willing to put myself in a position to find out.
What he just said is difficult to hear. It's not the proper reaction, but it's not insanity. And the reason I say that, and look, this is the first time I believe I've ever talked about Nick Fuentes in any detail on this show, because I really hadn't paid much attention to him, and then I've been forced to pay some attention to him and the gropers movement or whatever, and a lot of that has to do with the Christ is King debate. I've had to look into it. But I get his response, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I believe it was in 1993. Jesse Jackson, the leader of the Rainbow Coalition, the wannabe heir to Martin Luther King, said more concisely the exact same thing Nick Fuentes just said there. And Jesse Jackson, I believe, terrible leader, a heretic, a fraud, but he said the exact same thing. This is a very famous quote from Jesse Jackson. I want to read the whole thing in its entirety. He said, we must face the number one critical issue of our day. It is youth crime in general and black-on-black crime in particular. There is nothing more painful to me at this stage in my life than to walk down the street and hear footsteps and start thinking about robbery. Then look around and see somebody white and feel relieved. After all we have been through, just to think we can't walk down our own streets. How humiliating. It's hard to track that. I remember this. I lived through Jesse Jackson saying this. I thought it happened in the 1980s. The best sourcing I could find said he said this in 1993, but I thought it was in the 1980s. And what he said there, and he got in a lot of trouble, and the liberal media jumped down his throat and made him backpedal and made, oh, this is terrible. How dare you say this? Don't you know white people are to blame for everything? But Jesse Jackson said basically the same thing Nick Fuentes said last night. And both of them, heretics. And I'm not saying that there's no one that I know, regardless of color, who hasn't had those thoughts flash through their head. You can't pay attention to the news cycle. You can't be from the communities where black-on-black crime is rampant, where anytime you go into a black nightclub, you got to go through a metal detector before they let you in. You can't socialize in those environments, have family in those environments, have loved ones who have died or been injured in violence. You can't live in a world where every black person thinks, or the majority of black people think, as soon as I make it, I'm moving away into a white suburb. You can't live in this world without having the thoughts that Jesse Jackson expressed years ago and that Nick Fuentes just expressed last night. And what ties Jesse Jackson, Nick Fuentes, and we can go all the way back even further in history. What ties it all together is we've never tried the proper solution. We've never, rather than give in to bigotry, rather than to give in to skin color bias, we've never legitimately fought back against a culture that has been installed by Hollywood, the music industry, the idols set up in the culture. We've never said, hey, men, black, white, those of you that believe in Jesus Christ, let's come together under that umbrella. Let's come together under Christian culture and obedience to Jesus Christ. We've never tried that as the solution. What we want to try is, hey, let's just give in to bigotry. Let's just make sure, Let's just give in to a simplistic solution that assures our mutual destruction. If everybody's going to run into skin color bias and bigotry, we're going to have a bloody civil war in this country again. It's the wrong solution. I get the instinct. Jesse Jackson gets the instinct. Anybody with a brain gets the instinct. The devil is winning. He wants you to give in to your bigotry. He does not want you to say, hey, I'm going to form alliances based on Christianity and nothing else. Those of you leading black churches or white churches, those of you that preach a message that is idolatrous, those of you unwilling to object to an obvious demonic culture that Disney and every other media platform in America promotes. That's the problem. We won't stand our ground. We won't object. And when I say we, I'm talking about me too. We have to object to all of this and allow black people the freedom. When Joe Biden, you ain't black if you don't vote for me, blah, blah. No. We have to object. This whole black culture box that only we have been placed into. White people, Jewish people, Italian people, Asian people, they are free to be whatever they want to be. If they want to serve Jesus Christ, they are free to do it. When a black person chooses, you know what, I'm going to be obedient to God and I'm going to reject all of this hedonistic, materialistic garbage that the people controlling Hollywood, the people controlling the music industry have lined up and said, hey, you black people, this is the lane you're in. Tat yourself up, pull your pants down, curse, rant and rave, and be emotional and easily triggered. Be as feminine as you want to be if you're a man. When you embrace that culture, when you run around like Cardi B and Jay-Z and Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and all these people are important and worthy of respect, you're rejecting Jesus Christ and you're sentencing your children to a life and a lifestyle that will be antithetical to Jesus Christ. This music, this culture is not harmless. And if America's going to survive, men of faith are going to have to join arms and object and realize that this culture is, yes, it's got a hold of black people and black youth. It's coming for you as well. It's already there. And as I've made the point before, but who do you think is murdering babies in the womb? Crips and the Bloods? They're not running Planned Parenthood. This is a nihilistic mentality that's being foisted on all of us, that life doesn't matter, and that you can kill a baby in the womb, and it's no big deal, no harm, no foul. That's not the Bloods and the Crips. That's not Carmelo Anthony. That's not Pookie and Ray Ray. This nihilistic death culture is pervasive throughout America, and we, believers, have to muster the real courage to object. I want to make one last historical point, and I'm going to bring Virgil into the conversation. But I've made this point before, but I'm just trying to tie everything together. 1965, 1964. Daniel Patrick Moynihan, working for LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, president. And they asked him to do a study and come up with a report on, hey, we're in the aftermath of the civil rights movement. What should we do? What's the solution here? And he came up with the Moynihan report. And his solution, his suggestion was, hey, we got to restore the family in the black community. We have to empower black men so that they can be leaders in their family. You don't have to take my word for it. You can look it up. It's all in there. I hope we got the right excerpts. I'm going to read a couple of excerpts here from the Moynihan report before I summarize this. This is what he wrote in the Moynihan report. In this new period, the expectations of the Negro Americans will go beyond civil rights being Americans. They will now expect that in the near future, equal opportunities for them as a group will produce roughly equal results as compared with other groups. This is not going to happen, nor will it happen for generations to come unless a new and special effort is made. Measures that have worked in the past or would work for most groups in the present will not work here. A national effort is required that will give a unity of purpose to the many activities of the federal government in this area, directed to a new kind of national goal: the establishment of a stable Negro family structure. A fundamental fact of the Negro family life is the often reversed roles of husband and wife. Negro husbands have usually low power. That's Daniel Patrick Moynihan making the argument. Restore the family, the nuclear family, empower the husband, the man. And so he's talking about an effort to make sure good jobs are available to black men so they can lead their families, because he understood that the absence of male leadership, the promotion of feminism, the matriarchal culture that's being defined for black people and being imposed for black people is going to lead to their destruction. This is in 1964. And so here we are, 60 years later? And we have a matriarchal culture, black people. And American culture is becoming very matriarchal. Kids are out of control. Women have given them, and men, this emotional, simplistic, stupid narrative on American history, devoid of grace and mercy. You got people, what's Hannah Nicole Jones, or whatever her name is, Nicole Hannah Jones at the New York Times, the 1619 Project. They put some mixed nut woman in charge of rewriting American history and further instilling and affirming this mentality. Oh, you're all victims. And America's history, everything about it is racism, racism, racism. And you must hate whitey. And yes, I'm half white. And yes, I've dyed my hair red because I'm a nut. But the solution for black people is hating whitey. That's not the solution. The only solution that will save America and get us out of this mass psychosis: surrender to a biblical worldview. It has to happen, and everybody needs to understand all of our futures here in America are tied together. Black man and the white man are foundational in America's history, in its great history. We're not going to separate and survive. And there will be, Nick Fuentes and others will be preaching that. That's not in the Bible. It's heretical. It's thoughts of a heretic. No different than Jesse Jackson. Now, again, they have pointed to a truth, a fundamental truth, like, holy cow, there's a group of demographic in this country that has totally, apparently surrendered to the devil. And they've fallen for the trick that the evangelical white man is the source of all evil and he must be destroyed. They're destroying themselves in the process. They're destroying all of us. We have to stand together and fight against it. This is no different than when right-minded people stood together and fought anti-black racism. We have to stand together and fight anti-white racism and deal with the slave. They called white people nigger lovers. They're going to call me a honky lover. I love God. And I love this country. And I'm not ashamed of it. And I will deal with the slings and arrows in every name they call me. We all have to. If on Judgment Day, if we want to, on this issue, be on the right side. People love talking about being on the right side of history. I don't want to be on the right side of history. There'll be some Marxist idiot writing history. I want to be on the right side of God. If I'm on the right side of God, I'm better off, children are better off, America is better off. It's, last thing I'll say here before we get to Virgil is, you know, connecting this to yesterday's show and everything that I've been trying to tell you about why the roll call movement and fearless movement, important. We got to come together as men and women, but men in particular. Got to get underneath that Jesus Christ umbrella. We're not going to fix anything. And you know, Jesse Jackson didn't want to submit and surrender. Nick Fuentes doesn't want to submit and surrender. And so these guys, they just want a race war. And I get the instincts, but America won't survive. We had one in the 1860s and barely survived it. We're not going to survive a second one. And it's what the people that hate Jesus Christ, they want America to fall apart. They want to say, see, that Constitution that them racist white men wrote, it didn't work, or it only worked for 250 years. I don't, I don't know what their argument is, but they want us at each other's throats rather than joined together by our Lord and Savior. Don't fall for it. Virgil Walker, next.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. There's something bad going on with American men. It's been obvious for a while. It's measurable in a million different ways, but it's also right in front of your face. We have a massive problem with American men, and very few people have even bothered to notice, much less take it seriously. One of them is my friend Jason Whitlock in Nashville, who I've known for a long time and really love. He's decent and smart and totally fearless. And for that reason, I'm joining him on Friday, May 2nd in Nashville for the Roll Call 3.0 conference. And I literally can't wait to do it. Flying down just for that, and I'm excited for it because I think this really matters, and I think Jason is wise on the subject. So I'm there to talk, but also to learn, and I hope to see you there.
Join us at Fearless Roll Call 3.0. Real men, real conversations, real purpose. Tickets at fearlessrollcall.com.
Men, all right, welcome back. Virgil, you've just heard me for nearly 90 minutes Welcome back to the show. I don't have a great question for you.
Yeah.
Because I'm a tiny bit mentally fried, but
Yeah.
I just want your reaction. You were the perfect person to help me with this conversation, evaluate my conversation, just your thoughts in general.
Now, I have a number of thoughts because I think the ground that you covered really lays out the case for what's happening to particularly black boys, but black kids in general who've adopted this black hip hop culture. Kids, particularly black boys, grow up under immense pressure really to conform to this specific cultural narrative, this cultural identity that's been crafted. And none of it is grounded in any kind of biblical value or family legacy. It's grounded primarily in rebellion, aggression, and anti-intellectualism. If you're like me growing up early on, you're a young black boy who speaks proper English, who's not into hip hop culture or music or what have you, or sports, you're labeled as white. Oh, you're acting white. Oh, you talk like a white boy. That's kind of the thing that I would hear growing up, or the idea you think you're better than us, and that's kind of what this whole diss culture comes out of. It's the embracing of this hip hop gangsta mentality, and the idea that I won't be disrespected. It's really not, it's not thought-provoking, it's not helpful. It's a counterfeit identity that really is more of a social straitjacket more than anything else. It's really grounded in violence, sexual conquest, and bravado, and it has nothing to do with the biblical worldview at all. As you unpack this whole thing about I believe it's Frisco, Texas, where the event happened. I thought about my kids and how we raised them. My kids grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. I mean, you can't get more white than Omaha, Nebraska, right? I think the population there is like 6% black. In the area where we were, it was even less than that. My kids grew up at a school that was 99% white. Even still, Jason, there wasn't black culture that was feeding this idea, this narrative about it. It was white culture as well. My kids grew up with strong parents, biblical worldview, a mom and dad who were together, all the right things. But I found myself as a parent having to consistently and vigilantly address this hip hop culture, this blackness kind of hip hop culture that kids were embracing for two reasons. One, my boys were celebrated when they acted this way, and they were celebrated by their white friends as being, hey, that's cool. That's what looking cool looks like. So I constantly had to tell them that's not cool. That's not who you are. Don't act gangsta. We live in Omaha, Nebraska. Like, that's not who you are. So let's not pretend we're something that we're not. But again, it's not just black kids in black environments. It's white kids who are celebrating this, and that could very well have been what influenced Carmelo Anthony. He was playing a role. It was an acting thing that he was doing more than anything. And so the hip hop cultural influence is across the board: white, black, red, yellow, brown. It's everywhere, and it's important to identify it, to make sure our kids aren't adopting it and acting out things that will have phenomenal impact, negative impact on them for the rest of their lives.
To the best of my knowledge and what I've been able to dig up, this Carmelo Anthony had plenty of white friends, and I'm sure he doesn't think that he's racist at all, but I'm also sure he doesn't understand that that the mentality of don't disrespect me or I have to respond is a byproduct of a culture, because I have seen him pictured with hip hop type music playing, or maybe even him rapping himself. And it's a poisonous mindset that, from my view, Virgil, just doesn't get addressed consistently enough, often enough, powerfully enough from the pulpit in churches where black and white people go. White people stay away from it and say it's not our problem, but it is their problem because their kids are listening to the music and they're contributing to defining black culture as hip hop. But black churches and just seem to ignore it altogether. And it's like, this is a problem that'll go away if we ignore it long enough.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of black churches actually promote it. They promote it in the music that they sing. It's a lot of the music is performative. It has nothing to do with the worship of God. It's how cool the beat sounded or how close to hip hop they can become. So the churches have their own problem. Pastors at some of these places have some of their own problems, their own issues to address and deal with. But what starts, Jason, as performance ends up becoming pathology. And it starts out by mimicking kind of lyrics, adopting lingo and dressing the part, and then ultimately becomes acting it out. I mean, there's a whole genre of hip hop music predicated upon, within lyrical format, telling or talking about how you're going to off somebody else, and then having to go do that or demonstrate that you did that in order to have street cred for the next album. I mean, it's absolutely insane where this is in our culture. And it's imperative that we call it out. We call it for what it is. I go back to what you said earlier, and when you were talking earlier, the whole idea of the pants sagging down and us kind of speaking in a specific way that is not, it's not natural to anybody. You have to learn how to speak that way, and then it becomes something you can't get rid of over time. These kinds of things are really are powerful examples of how not to be. I'll finally say this as well. What this is emblematic of is the fact that fathers in the home who are grounded in biblical truth, it's not an option. A father grounded in biblical truth that's in the home is essential. This Carmelo Anthony, it sounds like or looks like from pictures with some of the affluence that he had around him, there were parents who cared about him. But even with my wife and I and my boys, we were vigilant. We were vigilant. They didn't have cell phones until they got ready to graduate from high school. We made them look really, nerdy, if you will, so that they weren't a part of culture. And fortunately, they made it through without some kind of an incident like this. And now both of my boys are very serious about their relationship with the Lord. They're serious about trying to make a living for themselves that doesn't include gang violence or drugs or anything like that. You have to be vigilant. Fathers have to step up. Pastors have to be promoting these ideas to the folks that are in their churches so that young people can have an actual chance of coming out and living a normal life that honors God.
This adoption of and promotion of and embrace of so-called black culture really, again, you called it a straitjacket. It's a straitjacket that keeps you away from adopting Christian culture. You can't, the way black culture has been defined, you can't be a part of that and a part of Christian culture. And that's what many black people think they're pulling off. Hey, I'm part of this black hip hop culture and I'm also a part of this Christian culture. Nah, can't happen.
No, I think you're absolutely right. One, they see Christian culture as too nerdy, too white, too Eurocentric, and so they don't want any part of it. But even quote unquote Christian black hip hop artists, they are trying to mimic the world. They're trying to look like the culture that they say that they've been redeemed from and out of. They're trying to get as close to that as possible without using the profanity or without doing. But again, apart from the words and some of the things that they look exactly like the culture that these kids need to run from. They need to be in the opposite position of. I'm not against Christian rap. I've enjoyed Christian rap from time to time, but too much of it looks too worldly. I mean, there was a time, man, when we tried not to mimic the world. Like Christians in church, black folk wanted to say, you dress too worldly. You talk too worldly. They wanted to see the world come out of you and for you to be looking more holy, more Christ-like, more serious about your walk in faith. And we've got to get back to that.
Virgil, what do you think of my juxtaposition of what Jesse Jackson said in the 1980s or 90s, as opposed to what Nick Fuentes is saying last night?
Yeah, it's the only opposition that black folks will have about it is Nick Fuentes saying it, not Jesse Jackson. They think it, though they may not say it. And really, that's not the solution. This issue is not an issue of color. It's an issue of culture. Often it'd be easy. The easy route, the easy way out is to attribute it. Oh, every person of that color acts that way, when that's not reality. I don't act that way. I know the vast majority of the people I hang out with don't act that way. It's not a color thing. This is a culture thing. It's not a skin issue. It's a sin issue. We've got to keep that in mind. And these simple applications that people, get on their podcasts and give, hot takes on it really misses the mark on what's actually happening.
Okay, what would you say to someone that says, you're right, it is a culture problem, but 90%, that's the number they would put on, 90% of black people have adopted that culture.
Right. Well, I'm not gonna argue with anyone who makes a decision about where they live. They can choose to do or live or operate in whatever manner they see fit. I live in a predominantly, I'm in Atlanta. This is a predominantly black culture or black city, known as a chocolate city here. And not everybody I run into acts that way. I can easily identify those who have embraced that culture, and I do stay away from those people. But I don't stay away from every black person as a result. And again, I'm not going to put, if Nick Fuentes doesn't want to live around black people, so be it. He's not, nothing he's saying is going to impact my day-to-day operation. I've got a family to feed, a life to live, and things to do that nothing he says or does is going to impact. And so, I'm not going to, I wouldn't spend the emotional capital to try to change his mind about it or anyone's mind about it if that's what they've adopted. I just know that it's not a logical solution. It's not reality. The reality is that everyone's not the same. You can't judge by the basis of the color of the skin. You do have to look at how people act. Culture is what we do. Our color is who we are. It's immutable. We can't change it.
I do think, though, from Fuentes to Andrew Tate to they have to be addressed. They can't be ignored because they represent a mentality that is gaining traction and popularity. And if we as believers don't step in and say, nah, here's what you should actually think about this, here's the moves we should be making to counter this, we just kind of leave them out there to fill a void. And as I've said, as it relates to Andrew Tate, he's an unrepentant pimp. But his popularity is because those of us that are believers haven't filled that void and haven't answered those questions and haven't talked about those issues. And so people lurching around will latch on to someone who's misguided and is going to walk them up out of their salvation and walk the culture into even more trouble. So that's why I wanted to address it. I'm like you. I live in America. He's free to think that. And he's free to move into whatever neighborhood he wants. And he's free to avoid whoever he wants. Because trust me on this, when I see someone with their pants hanging down and someone tats all up their neck, I don't care what job they got. They can be an NBA player, they can be a doctor, they can be a lawyer. But I'm like, oh, look at you trying to destroy and graffiti up what God created. If you'll do that to yourself, who knows, right? No telling what you'll do to me. And so, I'm good.
I completely agree. I have no problem explaining that it's culture, not color. It's sin, not skin. I have no problem articulating the truth in order to frame reality so that people can stop attaching themselves to the Andrew Tates of the world. I have no problem saying it on a podcast, writing it in an article, and being absolutely bold about those statements. As it pertains to trying to change their mind, brother, they can live where they want to live. If I saw Nick Fuentes coming in one direction, I might go the opposite direction. Who knows? But at the end of the day, I think you're right. We have a responsibility to address the issues of culture and of the day. Scriptures is absolutely clear about that we have a responsibility to tell others what we believe and why we believe it, and that we're to do so with gentleness and respect. And so that, I completely concur with that statement.
Virgil, I might be circling back to a question already asked, but I'm going to ask it a different way. The church and ministers, regardless of color, there are certain issues they're very comfortable talking about. This issue, hip-hop culture, and its pervasiveness in American culture is not one of those issues. No. And I think it's important that they address it, because it's like hip-hop and the pervasiveness of that culture is tied to abortion culture. Again, it's a nihilistic mentality that gets you in the mindset of like, well, that's a fetus, that's a baby, it hasn't, come out of its mother's womb, so we got no problem killing it. How kids and people get in that mentality, there's a music and another culture that supports that mentality, and that's why I think everybody from the pulpit should like, hey man, we got a culture out here that our kids are involved in, whether they're white or black. Your kids are listening to the music. Your daughters are out here trying to twerk to the music in a highly sexual fashion. And hey, folks, we have to reject it. Don't let it in your home. Do your best to get your kids from engaging in it. We have to take the financial incentive out of this culture, because it is corroding all of American values.
No, I completely agree. And here's the thing, Jason. Right now, there's a massive debate going on, in social media, on YouTube, with a number of different, YouTube personalities as it relates to the Black church. And the Black church actually, in my opinion, suffers from the same malady that Black culture suffers from. Right now, Black culture suffers from any critique of it is racist. Any examination of what's problematic is seen as white supremacy, as oppression. And so there's no way, shape, or form that any level of accountability for bad behavior, for poor results, for low education numbers, none of that, for any of the things that are going on in society are able to be examined under any microscope as it pertains to Blacks. And we CRT has done that for us. DEI has done that for us. The same malady is happening, or has happened, in the Black church. You cannot, and I live in Black church Mecca down here in Atlanta, you cannot do anything by way of looking at, examining, saying anything bad about Black church, or about what Black pastors are doing or saying or not doing or saying, without being called a racist. You hate Black people. You hate your own. You're white. You're working for the white man's agenda. You're the oppressor. You're white adjacent. All kinds of names will be leveled at you if you try to examine or critique in any fair fashion the Black church. And so until we get past the point where we can honestly assess what's happened, why it's happened, and the nature of the systemic problems that permeate Black culture, until we can stop and repent and look at those things really clearly, I don't see society changing in any way, shape, or form anytime soon.
Virgil, thank you for taking the time. We will see you next time. We're going to put a pause in this conversation, and talk a little sports with Skap Attack. Skap Attack. Next. Men, it's time to rise. Our country, our faith, our future, all under attack. I'm bringing the boldest voices to Nashville. Woke Call 3.0 is your call to action. Join me, join Tucker, and let's take a stand together. May 2nd and 3rd in Nashville. I am Jason Whitlock, your host.
Went without so that he could give you an abundant life. Young men shall utterly fall. Jason, I know you called us to preach off, but I feel like preaching up in here right about now.
All right, welcome back. Time for some Skap Attack and a little NBA discussion to lighten up the ending of the show. Jay, welcome back to the show. I want to talk about Nikola Jokic. People are coming out of the closet to praise Jokic after his 60-point game in a loss to the Timberwolves that Russell Westbrook actually blew the game. We'll get into that at the back end of this. But let's start with, here's Paul Pierce, NBA legend himself, or former NBA legend himself, talking about Jokic and calling him the most skilled player ever, perhaps.
How is he able to do the stuff that he's doing? He don't look nowhere near athletic. It just don't look right. How?
Man, truthfully, he might be the most skilled player the NBA has ever seen.
All around.
This is the most skilled player the NBA has ever seen.
That's an amazing statement. We'll get into it, but I want to play Anthony Edwards after that game, and the T-Wolves actually won the game, but Jokic 60, 10, and 10 or something like that. Anyway, let's play Anthony Edwards praising Nikola Jokic.
That might have been the best game of my life, like, that I've been a part of. Nikola Jokic, bro. Oh, my God. He might be the best basketball player I've ever seen, like, close up, besides myself, to myself. Bro, he's incredible, bro. The MVP race is tough, man. I don't know. He had 60. That was crazy.
How did you guys manage just the ups and the downs of it, and how crazy it was?
We was just hoping he missed. It was at one point we was just like, bro, we hope you missed, bro. Just, because trapping him, he wasn't trapping. Like, he good. Hats off to him, man. Sure.
How about
This game, even in a loss, seems to be sparking a sea change in the way Jokic is talked about. There's a lot of people that are giving Shai Gilgeous-Alexander the MVP trophy. The Oklahoma City Thunder have the best record. Shai's having a hell of a season. But one last thing before we get to Skap, I want to read to you the tweet from Jay Williams, former NBA player, ESPN personality. The truth about Nikola Jokic: if LeBron or Steph dropped 61, 10, and 10 in a game this time of year, we'd shut down the internet and ESPN would talk about it for 2 days straight. But when Jokic does it, it's just another night. Why? Because he doesn't look the part. He's not flashy, not loud, but make no mistake, skill for skill, he's already outpacing Shaq, Hakeem, even Kareem. We're just afraid to say it. Jokic isn't just the best player in the world. He's quietly building one of the greatest legacies we've ever seen, and the media is still acting like it's a fluke. Start with Jay Williams' statement there. Agree or disagree with what Jay is saying?
It's difficult for me, Jason, because I have become known around the internet as a bit of a Jokic defender. Maybe I go a little too far in my defense and praise of him from time to time, but I think the guy is actually, until recently, has been vilified by and large by large sectors of the mainstream media, particularly ESPN, for whatever reason, has been on this hate quest of Nikola Jokic, and it's been led by Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith has voted for Nikola Jokic one time in the last 5 years for MVP, but he goes beyond that. In the last 3 years, he has been openly campaigning against Nikola Jokic. So when I see this, I feel like I have to get on my little white horse and go to battle for Nikola and try to defend the veracity of what he's accomplishing right now. But now it looks like the praise is going in a different direction. Especially, I have seen Jay Williams taking up the crusade for Jokic for basically the last 24 hours. And it's hard for me, Jason, to compare this era with any other eras. I think basically throughout all of NBA history, the 60s have generally somehow, for some reason, become an era where they get this asterisk because of the exorbitant statistics, the pace of play, the rate, the scoring. So a lot of people look at, what Will Chamberlain did, even Elgin Baylor in that era, and Oscar Robertson, and they kind of diminish it because of what was going on in the NBA comparatively to the other eras. But look, we've gotten to that point now from 2014, 2015-ish till present. We're basically in the 60s. When you look at the pace of play, the rate, the scoring, it's basically right there commensurate with what we were seeing in the 1960s. So, and what happened in 2014, 2015, that's right when Nikola Jokic came in the NBA. So essentially his entire era has been played in this kind of watered down defensive, standpoint that the game has reached. So it's hard for me fundamentally to say he's better than Hakeem Olajuwon or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It's difficult to say that. I think, quite frankly, though, I am at a point where I can say he is better than Shaq. I think that Nikola Jokic has put down probably a better resume to this point, I think, than Shaquille O'Neal. And I think just the tangible on-court product, you can make a pretty stunning case that Jokic has surpassed Shaq. The other guys, the upper echelon, like the 2 or 3 best centers of all time, I don't know about that yet, Jason.
Yeah, I would think the guy that would be the best in this era of the old guys is probably Hakeem Olajuwon. I think in this era, he would have had a three-point shot, and in this era, he would get whatever he wanted in the paint. His footwork, his shots, it was just too good, and he would put up Jokic-like numbers. It's interesting because I've never heard this point, and I apologize for not being this informed. But in the 1960s, they had the same kind of pace of play that we have now?
It's similar, Jason. Yeah, it's ratcheting up there in terms of pace and number of possessions. But when you really, you just have to look at the raw scoring, quite frankly. I mean, the 1960s were anywhere between 115 to 118 per game for that decade. And I mean, look at the precipitous drop-off throughout the rest of NBA history. It lingered around 108 to 110 in the 80s. Then when you get into the 90s, it started ratcheting down into the mid-90s per game, where it stayed till about 2008 or 9. We were like barely even over 100 points. Now it's back to 115 points per game. Like it was 114, 115 the last 2 years. That's right about where we are right now. So I think a lot of people.
What brought it down? What brought it down from the 1960s? Why did scoring dip in the 80s, 90s, 2000s?
Well, you could say it kind of a two-folded approach. I mean, you could say that the players just became more competitive on the defensive side of the ball, by and large, for the vast majority of the NBA. But they also had some assistance from the league offices, in terms of allowing the physicality, players to lay hands, the hand checking, which became, a prominent element within the sport into the 90s and the early 2000s. So really the better question, Jason, is what brought it back up? And it 100% unequivocally was the league. They freaked out with how slow the game had become, how prodding, methodical, and physical that it became. The current commissioner, Silver, is on record as saying that the former style of play in the 90s and 2000s was, quote, gross to watch, and that it was too physical, and it took away, the gracefulness and the skill of certain players. And he highlighted Steph Curry as a guy that probably wouldn't have been able to exist in the 90s and early 2000s. So the league started to systematically take defense out of the NBA. They removed the hand checking. The zones are pervasive now throughout. And basically from right around like 2012 on, we've seen this ratcheting up of scoring to the point where we are now essentially in the Wild Wild West. It's like the 1960s. We see the triple doubles are off the chart right now. Players scoring 50-plus points over the last decade. There's basically been more 50-point games over the last 10 years as there were in all of NBA history before it. If you take out Wilt's, onslaught in the 60s. So there's just been this ongoing back and forth, I think, within the league. Like, do we incentivize offense? Do we allow defense? We're in a point now where offense is definitely being incentivized, and Jokic has just cornered the market. He's dominated the NBA now like really no player has in this era, I think it's fair. So you asked me originally, this segment started asking me about Kareem and Hakeem. I can't necessarily answer that, Jason, but what I can answer is from like 2010 to now. So that encompasses Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, LeBron James. From that point till now, Jokic is the best player that has existed in that time frame. That's how far I'm willing to go. He's better historically right now, in my estimation, than LeBron James and Steph Curry.
That's a mouthful. That's saying a lot. And it's with only one title, how can you say that?
Well, that's a great question, and I actually want to invoke the name of the great Hakeem Olajuwon, because to me, Hakeem is an undervalued and underrated player. He is in my top 5 all time. A lot of people have him top 10, maybe around 11 or 12. He is in my top 5. He's arguably, to me, the greatest big man of all time, and he has merely 2 championships. But the reason, Jason, he only has 2 is because he simply did not have enough help. Now, that has become the did not have enough help cry, has become basically known. It's synonymous with petulant, entitled brats like LeBron James, who's been begging for more help for his entire career. But when you look at a guy like Hakeem Olajuwon, he legitimately did not have enough help. Essentially, his entire prime was played without a single all-star until his, 30s, when they got Clyde Drexler at the trade deadline in 95, 96. And then they won. He defended his championship from 94 with Clyde that they got, at the deadline. But basically, for his entire prime before that, he had essentially nobody. Otis Thorpe was his best player on the 94 championship run. So how can I bypass, how can I overlook the fact that Jokic has only 1 ring when I myself value winning so much? Because Jokic has had a critical, it's a criminal level of lack of help that his organization has allotted him. People will talk about Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. and overrating the kinds of players that these guys are. Jokic is in his 10th season right now, Jason. That's 10 full seasons about to be completed within the next 6 games, essentially the next 2 weeks. He has never played with a single all-star, not one time, not one All-NBA player, not one All-NBA defensive player. Right now, if you look at this season, Jamal Murray, if you look at all the advanced analytics and stats, box plus minus, player efficiency rating, value over replacement, Jokic is leading the league by a mile in all of those things over Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at number 2. But when you look at Shai's team, he has 6 other teammates in the top 70 in all of those advanced metrics, including a player like Jalen Williams, who's like in the teens in that range. So, of course, this is a historically great team. Of course, they're maybe going to win 70 games and run away with the Western Conference, probably win the NBA championship easily, because they're absolutely loaded. But while there's 7 total players in the top 70 on the Thunder in BPM and PER, Jokic's best player is Jamal Murray at like 78th. So essentially, Nikola Jokic's best player is not even a top 70 player this year, and they're still going to somehow win 50 games. But this season is a microcosm for his entire career. This is the same team, basically, he's had for his entire career. The guy simply does not have the dogs to compete and win a plethora of championships. So just winning the one alone, to me, is enough. And it is damn impressive that he got that one in and of its own right, because it's something that Kevin Durant couldn't do. He had to go and jump ship and ride Steph Curry's coattails to his 2 and only championships. It's something LeBron James couldn't do. For 7 years, he stayed in Cleveland. He played at a very high level. He accrued 2 league MVPs. He got to 1 NBA final series where he got swept. He couldn't do it, Jason. He couldn't cut it. He had to cut bait, crawl on his hands and knees to South Beach and team with Dwayne Wade, then recruit Chris Bosh to win his first 2 titles. Then he went, of course, had another super team in Cleveland to win his next, and then Anthony Davis to win his 4th. Nikola Jokic has just stood pat. He stood in and he said, look, this is my organization. These are my teammates. I'm going to do the best I can with what I have, despite the fact it is a criminal lack of help. but he's done it and he's won a championship. I value that one title by Nikola Jokic more than any of the titles LeBron James has. So really, when you look at it, I'm looking now at individual dominance. And to me, Nikola Jokic is the most individually dominant player we've seen from 2010 on, surpassing LeBron James and Steph Curry fairly easily, in all honesty.
Holy cow. I'm going to have to think about that one. Do you think there's enough momentum at his back now that he might get the MVP over Shea?
No, it's unequivocally over. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you could just shut it down right now. We might as well. Typically, they announce it like in the first round of the playoffs, and they will present the MVP to the winner sometime in the second round in some kind of a home game situation. But we don't need to wait that long, Jason. We might as well just wrap it up right now. Just give Shea, do they play tonight? Just give Shea the MVP trophy tonight. There was a preordained movement to begin the season, a anything but Jokic movement in terms of the MVP. The writers simply don't want to give it to this guy for a fourth time. So literally they were grasping at straws when they entered the season. Please present us with anything, any semblance of some storyline to allow us to not give it to Nikola Jokic. And with the fact that the Thunder are going to win 69 or 70 games, while, I mean, the Nuggets are going to struggle to win 50, I think that's all they needed. And look, Shea is a tremendous player, and he, in his own right, is having a historically great season, Jason. It's a historically great year by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but it's just not as good as Jokic, and it's not as valuable as what Jokic is providing. It should be Jokic. It's not going to be. So to answer your question, the answer is unequivocally no.
Has there ever been an example of a player on a team that wins 65, 70 games that loses the MVP to a guy that's got 20 less victories? Are there any examples of that where we really have gone with the best player rather than the best player on the best team?
No, there are no examples of that. There are some examples of fatigue, like with Jordan, which is what's happening with Jokic, where Jordan probably should have gotten a couple more. 92, 93 comes to mind readily, where it obviously should have been him. Barkley got it instead. Jordan got his ultimate revenge in the finals that year and beat the Suns. But at least that, and same with Karl Malone. Look, you can make another case. Karl Malone stole the one off Jordan too. But they at least won a lot of games too. You know, they were a commensurate win level with the Bulls, whereas, look, the Nuggets are just, like you said, 18 or 19 games below. But, Jason, if you look at it real quick, I don't want to get off on a tangent here. If you look at the net rating of what, remove Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from the Thunder per 100 possessions for the whole year. So this is tracking data over the entire season of all the minutes that Shai was on and off the court. Per 100 possessions, if you remove Shai, the Thunder is still like +4 in net rating. Jason, that's a top 8 seed line. Like that's one of the 8 best net ratings in the whole NBA. So without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the team, basically I'm telling you this team's going to win 51 or 52 games over with a replacement level player. So Shai has taken a 51 or 52 win team and made them a 70 win team. So he's taken a very, very good team and made them, you know, historically great. But when you look at what Jokic has done, if you remove him per 100 possessions, the Thunder's net rating is like -3. It's one of the 4 worst net ratings in the NBA. It's right around the Washington Wizards. So what I'm telling you is if you remove Jokic, and it bears it out, he's missed 12 games. They're 4-8 in those 12 games without Nikola Jokic, which is on pace to win about 26 games. So if you take Jokic out of the equation, that team's winning anywhere between 19 to 25 games with a replacement level player. He's taken that team and uplifted them to 50 while missing 12 games and while averaging a nearly 30-point triple-double. It is an absurd season. It's arguably going to be the worst MVP snub. You can make the case dating back to 61-62 when Wilt Chamberlain lost the MVP to Bill Russell that year, the famed year where Chamberlain averaged 50 and 25 per game, Jason, and averaged 40 48.5 minutes per game. Think that over. He played all 80 games that year, and he averaged 48.5 minutes, 1 minute, a half minute more than the games were long because his team that year played in 7 overtime games. So that allowed him to average more. He didn't miss a second of that entire season, averaged 50 and 25, but he won 11 fewer games than Bill Russell, and Russell got the MVP.
Skap, that was great. We're going to end there. Not going to talk about Russell Westbrook. Great job. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. We'll see you next time. We'll play tomorrow, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I wanna be.